In the mean streets of New York, there is one officer who is above the law, who's looking to stick it to the average citizen who's just trying to get by. What's going on, Dungeon Dwellers? Welcome back to Dave's Dungeon. I am, as always, the one, the only, Dungeon Master Dave, bringing you another episode of Spooktober 2023. Today, for the, I don't know why I'm bringing you these, other than they're near and dear to my heart, and I feel like these are so overlooked, and maybe we'll talk about it a little later. I think these could use the remake, the remaster, the remodel, the update for a modern audience that so many other films have gotten, and I want to talk about it. But for today's episode, I am bringing you not one, not two, but Maniac Cop! Yes, William Lustig and Larry Cohen, Maniac Cop 1 and 2. I love these films. I wanted to do something, though, with this review. Now, you may be going, Dave, normally we review one movie at a time. And look at me, I'm getting so excited about it and kind of up in my feels that I'm like, oh man, I can hardly talk. But the reason I'm reviewing two films is because I kind of want to say these two are practically the same film. This is almost an Evil Dead situation, ladies and gentlemen, where shot for shot, moment for moment, bit for bit, these are practically the same movie. And there's no problem with that. I mean, we love Evil Dead, and Evil Dead 2 is just more Evil Dead. Who's mad at Evil Dead 2? And I have to say, Maniac Cop leads to a conclusion with and it can continue from here, sort of leaving it cliffhangery. Maniac Cop 2, cliffhangery again for Maniac Cop 3, which thankfully we won't discuss Maniac Cop 3, okay? We're going to leave it out of the discussion because Maniac Cop 3 was on the good drugs, and I'm not so sure it was well thought out, okay? But at least for Maniac Cop 1 and 2, we get a good story, and you get a story that I feel is super cohesive and makes so much sense, and is one of those things that you see in other horror films, and it's like the Casablanca of horror here, but no one's ever repping it. No one's ever put it on their list. So I thought, as a challenge to myself, as the Dungeon Master himself, I'd review Maniac Cop 1 and 2. Not back to back. Not I'm going to review one and then the other. I'm writing one review for both movies, and I'm doing it at the same time. So, believe me when I say this, I hope I did it. This may be my hot take. I know some of you have been giving me shit about my hot takes. Well, this may be one of them. But around here, we just spit lava. We ain't worried about it. So, let's get off in the body count. We have one typical day in New York City. One waitress attempting to escape an armed robbery. I'd rather face the muggers. Which, if you think about it, the immediate thing we get into with Maniac Cop 2 is an armed robbery with a convenience store clerk. Looking a little similar. One getting help from the wrong cop. Meet Officer Matt Cordell. Yep, lining up. One introducing Frank, the guy who's supposed to make sense of this and stop this guy. Maniac Cop 2, we're still hanging around with Bruce Campbell and what's her name? Laureen Landon, until we stumble upon Robert Davi, who is our Frank. One creepy ass whistle lets you know he's coming. You know the. You know that one? Yeah, it's in both movies. One relationship in trouble, and one guy ended up getting framed. Well, this plot point may be shifted around a little bit because he doesn't get framed in the second one. She does. And yes, it's the same she. We have the Jack and Teresa relationship. One, the dangers of drinking and driving pale in comparison to getting stopped by the Maniac Cop. This is a reference to there is random motorist gets pulled over at red light and pulled from the car to get killed. Yep, that lines up. One, nightstick sword foo, because every call requires excessive force. And I promise you, he's always using that nightstick sword. Even in the second one. Have you ever seen anything so dastardly and evil? Shink. Yeah, he has. One commissioner trying to cover his own ass by getting in the way of the truth. Yup. This has been the theme of every one of these, and I don't think if they were to remake this series, that wouldn't be the story. One, double parking comes with a stiff penalty nowadays. Sidewalk foo. Now, I hear you. You're going, Dave, this is one of the few scenes that doesn't actually repeat. But the double parking does. The getting in trouble for it does. And while one double parking scene involves sidewalk foo, the other one involves chainsaw getting handcuffed to the steering wheel foo, which is just a rip from a Jackie Chan film. So again, it's practically the same scene. Nothing wrong with that. It's just more Maniac Cop, which for me is, hey, great. Yay! I watch these all the time. One, deciding to go public because the city hall and commissioner are sitting on it. Yep. Not only does this happen in one, this happens in two. One, you're not gonna get me. Everyone wants to shoot a cop nowadays, has a pretty good reason to do it. Yeah, this happens. This happens fairly regularly in the Maniac Cop series of, well, now he's killing again, and now they gotta have to cap some people. One, red herring phone call that exposes the cheater, but not the killer. You could think about this as the call between what was her name? Paula Tricky, a certain dancer in the second movie, and the front desk, and then Leo, aka Turkel, calling in the second film. Yeah, there's strange phone calls from time to time in this film series. Shocker. One, Maniac Cop attacks Teresa because she knows too much. We see this in the second one. It's not Teresa this time. It's Claudia Christina, who plays, I can't remember her name, but she's the Teresa replacement to Robert Davi's Frank replacement. For the whole first film, we were dealing with Frank and Teresa and Jack ends up replacing Frank. But in the second film, Robert Davi's character comes in and replaces basically Frank, and Claudia Christian's character comes in to replace Teresa. So you basically just slide those characters right back in. When I shot him 6 times. 6 times! Trope explaining the vengeful spirit. Because his hands are as cold as ice, willing to sacrifice her throat. And in 2, we get this from the one and the only Robert Earl Jones, father to James Earl Jones, Darth Vader himself. So again, there's some movie trivia for the rest of you. Why, by the way, Robert Earl Jones is already horror, like, royal family. Why? He's the cook in Sleepaway Camp. For those of you who don't know, he's in the second Maniac Cop. 1, someone is helping Matt Cordell when no one should be. In the film 1 and 2, the first one, it's a police officer. In the second one, it's a street punk, because at least in that instance, we can turn it back on the criminal when Matt gets to make a decision about who and what to shift to. Because in the first one, I'll argue, this is arguably what's the bad thing about it. I won't say it's the worst thing or the sort of terrible thing it does. I'll say it's the bad. It's what I feel makes the first movie not as good as the second one and harder to pivot from. So we'll get into that in the gory details. But for now, just understand, being able to look at Leah Rossi's character in Turkel and go, he's a scumbag, is a good thing in the second film versus not so good. 1, tracking Cordell by tracking his helper. Yep. 1, Cordell is doing it all for the justice and vengeance. Omerta Ghost. Because Matt Cordell is the same thing the entire time. Some people have gone, is he a ghost? Is he a zombie? He's a ghost. He's a vengeance ghost. He's not a physical body there all the time. He's like a specter that shows up, and it's like the movie Ghost, where he can show up and affect things and do the sorts of things that you see him do, but he's not actually walking around like a shambling zombie all the time. Although movie 2 kind of puts that into some contention with how long he hangs out with Cordell. William Lustig said it himself. This is a vengeance ghost. Ghost. We can argue over whether it's an actual ghost or a living zombie or a dead zombie. We can argue. But I'm going to go with what old Bill said. 1, Matt Cordell history lesson about why he's angry and how he was wronged, aka how we screwed Matt Cordell in court, with the same footage. Between 2 films, it's the same footage. 1, Matt Cordell prison police assault with full Terminator mode action, because we completely wipe out the police department. Only then in the second one to need to snow plow it again. Yep. We go through 2 police offices. And not officers, offices. Full buildings. 1, hello, my name is Matt Cordell. You are the mayor and the police commissioner. You wrongly put me in prison and got me killed. Prepare to die. Swearing your vengeance on the very people who probably did the city a favor in hindsight, now looking back on you. 1, Matt Cordell takes a hostage and goes for a ride, because, yep, that happens across both movies. 1, but now, before I jump too far and get ahead of myself and get rolling into the patter, this is where the 2 movies differ. It's not necessarily the ending, because guess what? The endings are practically the same. Matt Cordell dies, but doesn't. Okay? And left open-ended to say, we can still make a sequel here. But now it's the sort of climax of the movie. This is the only difference between these two films. Maniac Cop 1, he takes a short ride off of a deep pier after getting impaled with a mast. Versus, he goes up in flames after getting hit with a Molotov and gets vengeance on those who murdered him after receiving a pardon he sorta earned? Sorta deserved? I mean, can you say he deserved to be pardoned after killing so many people? Let's not get into whether Matt Cordell deserved to be pardoned, okay? But yeah, that's the one difference is, did Matt Cordell go off a pier and you watch Bruce Campbell do a somersault and almost die? Or did Matt Cordell go up in a blaze of glory after choking 3 guys out and getting shoved through a brick wall? Who knows? I have to say, these are 4.5 stars to 5 stars if you love B-movies and horror movies and sort of mysteries about whodunits and the sort of weird macabre. This is a 5-star movie for you. But otherwise, probably a 4.5. Being realistic, this is not a perfect film for everybody, okay? But it doesn't matter which one you want to watch, because the first one is 86 minutes and the second one is 88 minutes. They're literally 2-minute difference. MVPs for the first one, we're going to give it to Tom Atkins, Bruce Campbell, Robert Zadar, obviously, for being the Maniac Cop, Richard Roundtree for playing the Commissioner, and Laureen Landon for playing Teresa. Now again, remember, Bruce Campbell and Laureen Landon are in the second film, even though they die. So MVPs still go to them, but also Robert Davi, Claudia Christian, Michael Lerner as the new Commissioner, or is he the mayor? I think he may be the mayor, because we don't meet the mayor in one, we meet the Commissioner. It's confusing. We also have Leo Rossi as Turkel, which, if you can't tell, I love the heck out of Turkel. He's a beautiful addition to this whole story, because he gives us this human analog to Robert Zadar's, what's his name? Matt Cordell, that we don't have in the first one. He has a counterpart, but she isn't so much the sort of partner. She's more of an ally, less a partner. There's also Clarence Williams III, who plays Clem, or he's the guy who's on death row. He's going to Sing Sing Man. And then Paula Trickey as the dancer, and Robert Earl Jones as the man on the street. These are trauma films. They come at a certain level of good, okay? Can't say much else than that, other than make sure you watch these. You can see them on Tubi, you can see them on Amazon Prime, you can see them on AMC. I've found them in a few different places. I think Screenbox had them, and I think Peacock had them. Other than that, you may have to search, but I think Tubi had them, so at least the first two. Now, people have asked me about Badge of Silence. Badge of Silence is doing hard coke and asking you not to notice. I don't necessarily recommend it. Okay? It has a voodoo plot, okay? In a storyline about a vengeance ghost that is a New York police officer, we somehow get to a Haitian voodoo plot. Don't do it. Not even once, kids. And these are such fun films that, I mean, if you really love the series that much, go for it. Go for Badge of Silence too. But just know, I'm going to look at you with a side eye. Anything else I want to talk about? Oh, yeah. Why am I recommending these films? These films are from 1988 and 1990, respectively. These films are not on anyone's to-do list. These films are not on anyone's sort of hot button topics for rewrite or discussion. So why am I recommending them to you? Because I feel like these are the one films that everybody's saying you can't rewrite, and yet these are the one film I kind of want them to rewrite. Because think about it. What film series could you write for a modern audience where we're dealing with police issues, with brutality, with believing the suspect, with are our streets safe? And we're dealing with a maniac in the street who's a police officer who's killing people, and people are taking justice into their own hands. And yet, in this instance, he could be the new Michael Myers of the people can't stop him. And so it's, how do the police win back credibility? Well, they have to go after him. So it's like, what better way to get at a sort of hot button issue like this than somebody needs to dust this thing off. You need to dust it off, you need to pull it out, you need to watch it a couple thousand times, and then you need to rewrite it for today's issues of everybody believes that the police are these maniacs. Well, what if there was an actual one? What if there was a Maniac Cop? And realistically, how would everyone react? Because I get Bill has captured what the political side of it's going to do, what the town hall and the police commissioner and what the corrupt system wants to do. But what I don't feel like he ever got a real good chance to do, and it's really because these movies are so tight. I mean, it's an hour and 26, an hour and 28 minutes. You watch them back to back, it makes a pretty good single saga story for me of the story of Matt Cordell without having to go too crazy. But the sort of long and short of that is you don't get a large sense of what having a maniac like this on the street does to the people and how they marshal against it. Because it's always the police reacting to it, and you're always given some avatar who lives in a police uniform. Does that make sense? We share the police position, and this is why I say there's a weakness between the first movie and the second movie. So if you don't want spoilers, run away right now. Go watch these films and come back, because going into the gory details right now, the police officer woman who is helping Matt in the first film, who was his girlfriend, who threw herself out the window, for those of you who are a little slow to catch on, she makes it hard when he kills her for us to fall back on Matt does something redeemable. But in the second film, when Matt's given the pardon, and everyone goes, okay, Matt, we admit we did you wrong, and we ask you for your forgiveness, and we're going to give you full honors because we screwed you over. He's able to rotate back and go back to his vengeance on the people who wronged him. And even when he kills Turkel, Turkel's a bad guy, so he's at least doing justice still. He's at least taking, as his girlfriend in the second or the first film said, you're at least taking the scum off the street. So I feel like for that reason, the second one with Robert Davi and Claudia Christian is a stronger film. I do. And in fact, you can watch just the second one and still get everything that happens in the first one, because the first 10 minutes of the second one are just the retelling of everything that happens. Yeah, the beginning it literally jumps from the ending of the first film and tells you enough through the back exposition of every character coming back up and then executed and taken off. You literally get the story again. So you can just watch the second one. You can just watch the second one, I promise. Anything else I want to talk about? I do really feel like these are films that either need to live in most of your horror cabinets, or someone needs to be petitioning for these films to get a remake right now. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Spooktober. And for Maniac Cop 1 and 2. Listen to me, I can't even talk. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe so you know when I drop new content. Make sure you ring that bell. Ding, 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 ding. And I promise you guys, if you watch these films, you're going to have fun. But I hope you've enjoyed our journeys together. And look, if you're looking for a moral in all of this, I might not look for a moral in all of this, because I usually think the police are generally okay to trying to do what's best, but I don't know. You can't look. I will say this in closing. You can't look at these films and find our trust levels in 2023 of police today. Like, the perspectives that they portray in the way people trust the police and treat the police in Maniac Cop 1 and 2, they are of their time, and no one can redisplay that. You know what I mean? That could never be touched. You could never try to say that sort of story worked in today's society, but the concept of a Maniac Cop could totally be done again. And without much effort, you wouldn't even need to go to the lengths of Vengeance Spirit or Zombie. You could totally do a believable story. But thank you guys so much for joining me on these journeys. But until next time, be safe. Don't go getting in any trouble.